Namaste, Sudhirji, and I hope everybody can hear me. Namaste. And a lot of friends and seniors, so I will do a group namaste to everyone without naming anyone in specifics. I'm also conscious of time. So let me just delve into a few things which I think are very relevant. If I'm an investor today, I would be more happy to invest in a microfinance business, and whether it's in a microfinance institution or an SFB, purely because I think what the Reserve Bank of India through its consultative paper has done is really focused on A, governance, and two, bringing some level of discipline, I would say. Level playing field is important, but I think it's more of a disciplined approach. So let me quickly go into what we see and what at least I see as the best things and some of the challenges. So I think the household income is very important. We lend to a lot of women borrowers. Many times they take the money, give it to the husbands for their business. They're not necessarily the bread earners of the family. So for us to look at a household is very important. The question that we should really ask ourselves is, why would we look at a household only for microfinance? You could very well take a two-wheeler loan and that will add to your burden. So when you calculate 50% of household income is to be used for repayments, I think that should include every single loan. I think possibly we should look at a regulation which says all loans to this segment, doesn't matter what kind of loan it is, should not exceed 50% of income. And I think that's very important if you're worried about, and we should be rightfully so, worried about the health, financial health of a customer, not over leveraging the customer. So I think it's a very good step, but we should probably take it to the next level. There is always a question around how do we calculate household income? And I'm very happy that the boards and the companies will decide, because like I think Deepmala rightly mentioned, you could have different variations depending on what your occupation is or what your geography is. So allowing people some amount of leeway because it is informal, I think is important. And which is where the boards and the CEOs will play a role, where you really define how it is done. But I think the bigger point is not about how it is done, that it has to be done. It's a key way how we all think and how we all behave, I think is the crux of the issue. If you can make credit bureaus give household exposures and not individual exposures, I think that'll be a real help, even if it comes the next 6 months to 1 year. I think pricing wise, it's very good because it really allows MFIs, which SFBs were allowed earlier, to price for risk. I think we all discuss whether, how price will go down. We should certainly talk about it. But if one looks at demonetization and pandemic, and in all banking terminology, we talk of what is economic loss through the cycle. If you actually add the losses that many of us, if not all of us, have made during demon and now in pandemic, I think first time we will be able to really do a pricing based on what I think is lost through the economic cycle. And we should really build that because it is not clear in our heads what would be the next crisis. But having seen a few crises, at least two in the last 6 years, it's relevant for us to bring in that level of risk in our pricing. I completely agree with Amalda where pricing for risk is relevant. So if you're a second-time borrower, third-time borrower, I think we can all, if you're already in the bureau or you're not in the bureau, what kind of occupation you have. So there are various ways now we can really do price for risk. To me, the big point relieving price from all burdens is price for risk. I do think there is a risk that somebody may overcharge depending if he's deep in some geography, nobody is coming. I think SROs, which Satish Ran or Sudhirji manages, can play a role on figuring out anybody doing usurious pricing. Padma Kumar, you're audible to everybody else. Thank you, Padma Kumar. The final piece I would like to say is, I think, if today as a bank, I want to incentivize somebody to pay digitally, I can't, because the same product cannot be, you can't incentivize a customer to pay digitally versus cash. I think for microfinance, we should allow that, because the amount of money we spend collecting cash, the amount of risk our people take going out, meeting customers, especially in this environment, I think we can do service better if we do non-electronic way of payment. So the other thing that we could really focus on as a group and get in the consultative paper is, can we differentiate a digital payment versus not? With that, I would like to stop here. And again, Sudhirji, thank you for inviting me. And it's such a pleasure to be amongst friends. Thank you.
Shri Rakesh Dubey, sir. Shri Rakesh Dubey.